From Global's newsroom at 8 o'clock, the Home Secretary is temporarily suspending new applications from asylum seekers looking to bring their families to the UK. Yvette Cooper has been revealing the government's latest plans to tighten the rules to deter small boat crossings. It follows a summer marred with unrest following protests against asylum hotels. Danny Shaw, Home Affairs commentator who used to advise Yvette Cooper, told LBC there was nothing of substance on hotels in her speech.
What I wanted to see was her setting out a clear timetable with concrete measures about how they're going to get that number down from around 200 to zero. What we need is every single month or every few months, we need to see the total number of hotels coming down.
Afghanistan's health ministry is asking for international aid after a magnitude 6 earthquake. At least 800 people have died. An 18-year-old boy has been arrested on suspicion of murder after a woman fell from a block of flats in Southampton. He's being questioned by detectives looking into Thursday's incident. The UK's had its warmest summer since records began in 1884. The Met Office says the average temperature was 16.1 Celsius, topping 2018's record. In the city, the FTSE 100 closed up 9 points at 91.96. The pound buys $1.35 and €1.15. LBC weather: showers becoming confined to northern and western areas as well as southern coasts tonight. Mostly dry with clear spells elsewhere, but heavy rain in the southwest by dawn, lows of 10 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Daryl Jackson.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation. Cross Question with Iain Dale.
Hello, a very good evening and welcome to Cross Question. It's the first of our new run. It's 2 minutes past 8 here on LBC. Let me tell you who's on our panel tonight. Over to my left, we have Steve Reid, Labour Environment Secretary and MP for Streatham and Croydon North. Next to him is Andrew Griffith, Conservative Shadow Business Secretary and MP for Arundel and South Downs. To my right, Alison Phillips, journalist and former editor of the Daily Mirror. And to her right, Sir Martin Sorrell, founder and executive chairman of the marketing company S4 Capital. He became famous when he founded WPP, which you've all heard of, the world's largest advertising and PR group. Used to be. You see, that's two barracks. I've got trouble here, ladies and gentlemen. If you would like to ask a question to our panel, 0345 6060 973 is the number to call. And of course, you can watch us on Global Player and the new LBC app.
0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850. Cross Question with Iain Dale. This is LBC.
Now, the eagle-eyed among you will have spotted we are in a new studio. Another reason for you to watch us on Global Player or the LBC app. Let's go to our first caller. It's Steve in Manchester. Steve, very good evening. What would you like to ask?
Good evening, panel. Do the panel believe that the populist right, the roundabout painters, the hotel harassers, will they ever be satisfied with anything that this particular government can do on the subject of migration?
Andrew Griffith.
Yeah, I think a government that demonstrates it's got a grip, and I accept that that's been wanting for a number of governments now, can restore confidence that the government's got control of the borders, that we have a fair settlement, that we stand in the place that we've been in the world, and that the British people, which survey after survey shows, are some of the most tolerant and welcoming people in the world. But what people, the dissonance, the reason why we are where we are, is this sense that the government hasn't got control. And sorry to Steve's lot, but I mean, they came in and they said they'd got a plan, and people took that as read that they really did. And when governments don't look like they're in control, that's when people, take to the streets or whatever the equivalent is, painting a roundabout. There's nothing, by the way, wrong with celebrating your national heritage, but if Steve's point is this is a reaction to that, then just governments need to get back and have.
Do you think it is a reaction?
Yeah, I think it probably is a reaction. I think we've probably been we've not found the right vocabulary for a long period about celebrating our heritage. If I go to France, if I go to the States, they're much more forward-leaning in terms of being proud of their history. I think that's a long-standing, more deep-seated issue. But clearly, we've had a hot summer, and that's been fueled by the sense that the government hasn't got a plan to deal with the migration.
Now, Steve, you're going to tell me you have got a plan, but I was listening to Yvette Cooper in the Commons today making her statement, and it seemed to me you could describe it as sort of tinkering around the edges. It wasn't something that could make a lot of the people that are painting roundabouts and whatever think, OK, well, let's give them a chance.
I think the first point is we have to recognise the level of public concern and in some cases anxiety about levels of immigration, and that shot up really when the previous government were running what amounts to an open borders experiment, given the levels of people that were coming into the country. So that is what this government is trying to tackle, and the approach we've been taking is to get a strong deterrent to people who are coming over here and the gangs that are shipping them over here, effective removals of people who have come here who don't have the right to be in the country, and then preventing crossings from happening. So on the deterrent, we've got the returns deal with France, that very soon we'll be seeing people return back to France. Initially, it's a pilot scheme. The intention is to ramp it up. That will deter the people smugglers from sending people across, because they will know that if they're coming illegally, then they will be eventually sent back. Whereas if they come through formal channels,
well, one
we
in 17
choose who comes into the country.
I mean, is that much of a deterrent?
It's a pilot scheme. We've got to see how it works first, then we can ramp it up. That's the intention. But if you compare that to the Rwanda scheme, where they spent hundreds of millions of pounds to remove just 4 volunteers ever, this is a real scheme. That is not a real scheme.
When you accuse the previous government of operating an open borders policy, how do you then explain the fact that the number of asylum seekers who've come over the channel since your government came to power is higher than it was under the previous government?
You look at what we've got it in the most recent month, August. It's the lowest number of people coming across in boats since August 2019. Looking at August is usually one of the peaks because the weather is calmer, the weather is calmer, the weather is warmer.
It's a record.
The best since 2019. It was but you know what? I saw Robert Jenrick standing outside one of those hotels blaming the Labour government on the fact that we've got so many people in hotels. It was Robert Jenrick, as the Home Office Minister, who was boasting about opening the hotels to put the asylum seekers in it. So you've got nowhere to go on this, Andrew. Absolute rank hypocrisy. We're having to pick up a mess, and we're starting to put in place the measures that will deal with it. One of the things the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, was talking about today was how we get Article 8 of the European Convention applied more effectively in the UK. We've got a lot of people who are coming over illegally and who are then able to bring family members, citing Article 8 of the European Convention. Other countries don't do that. If you look at Denmark or Switzerland,
so why do we?
They require countries to have people to have been in their country for 2 years so that they're settled.
That's something you could change at the stroke of a pen.
Well, and that's what Yvette has announced today. We're going to look at how we can change the convention. They had 14 years to change it. They didn't change it at all.
But why is it taking you over a year?
Experiment. We are starting to fix that problem. Now, your caller there, another Steve. There's a lot of us about said.
Very common name.
There are very popular name actually.
Sorry, I meant popular.
People are right to be worried about the numbers of people coming into the country illegally, because if you don't have borders, you don't have a country. Ultimately, we're proud of our country. We want to secure our borders, but we also want to make sure that people who do have a right to come here or have a need to come here will be able to come here. This has always been an open country. We've always been welcoming to those in need, and we want to retain that aspect of what it is to be British, but we should be choosing who is coming in. We need to manage our borders so we can do it fairly.
Alison.
So, I mean, obviously, you're always going to have some people on the extreme right who are never going to be happy with anything that a Labour government are going to do.
Is this just an extreme right?
No, it's not. So that's the thing. So you're going to have those people there. But actually, what we're seeing now, or certainly have seen in the last few months, is more and more people who are sort of would regard themselves as fairly centrist, who are feeling this anxiety about immigration and this anxiety about the country more broadly and what it stands for. So, but I think I am actually quite positive about a lot of what Yvette Cooper has done. Now, I think what we have to understand is it is in increments and it is small steps. But the way she operates and the way this government operates, whether you like it or not, is by being very good on the detail. I kind of compare it with. Do you remember the guy who won who was the head of the 2012 cycling? And he said, if we can increase everything by 5%, we will get to 100%, and that's how we won all those medals at that point.
The nudge approach.
Yes, and that is what we're seeing now. That may well not be enough for a lot of people who are painting roundabouts at the moment, because they don't want little incremental changes which might add up to something. They want the big bang, they want the Donald Trump, they want the executive orders, they want the drama, they want it to happen right here and right now. And I understand that. And that's why there's going to have to be consideration now whether continuing with that sort of incremental approach, even though it might be effective, is going to be sufficient.
They didn't say there was nothing incremental about smash the gangs, right?
Well,
I mean, the inference
but the way it's being
not
done.
criticising any particular government, but the inference was this is a fundamental failure of democracy and control. The inference was Keir Starmer has a plan, he gets it, he understands the concerns of people painting roundels and roundabouts, and he has a plan to smash the gangs.
But there has been a gang.
And yet here we are.
Been.
Well, no, here we are. We've had a year of record. The only thing that has been smashed is records for the number of people coming to the UK.
But to be fair, they have released figures that showed that they have. I think they used the word disrupted.
They've disrupted.
Was it 320 or 420
they've disrupted gangs.
So that's something, isn't it? That's the highest figure that there's been for many years.
They've disrupted gangs, and they've also got working with the French police. There is more action going on that side. And we know that the one in, one out is going to have an impact.
It's not one in, one out. It's 17 in one, maybe out.
And it hasn't even happened. What we know about that
even
is
that is more than your Rwanda scheme.
Well, it's that. But also we know that there is a deterrent factor. And it's not really helpful if we pretend that none of these things have any value. You could argue they might not have the value that you wish them to have, but they will have a value.
OK, Martin.
I think it's broader than all this stuff. I mean, it's what you're talking about, we see broadly elsewhere, pretty much around the world. And it's a concern by the disenfranchised, or the broadening of inequality. It's been going on since about the 1980s and 1990s. And the simple fact is this country is not wealthy enough and not growth conscious enough and not growing enough to deal with these issues. In a world where there's a lot of fractious activity and fragmentation, we're being faced with this problem of immigration, not just in the UK, but in a number of countries. And there are people that have suffered as a result of the inefficiencies of globalization, or the inadequacies of globalization. There's not enough flexibility in the system. And what we're going to see with AI and the growth of technology is going to make it worse. So I think we hear Conservatives and Labour bickering about who's responsible. And the simple fact is, from an electorate point of view, you're both responsible. And I think the real issue is much, much deeper. So this is not about people painting roundabouts. So this is a phenomenon that we're seeing across the world. We're seeing demonstrations and disruption in many countries in Europe, in Asia. We saw it over the weekend with Australia and New Zealand. And we're going to see much more of it. And it's symptomatic. It gets dealt with in different ways depending on how wealthy and how how successful from a growth point of view countries are. The US can probably accommodate it more, but even the US is grappling with it.
But do you think Labour is getting any aspect of this right?
No, not at all. I think they're just as bad as the Tories.
So what do you think they should be?
That's the reason
what do you think
why
they should be doing?
That's the reason why reform is, apparently. I mean, it's much. Do I think reform is a figment of people's frustration? No, it's much deeper than that. Do I sort of recoil with horror at the thought that Nigel Farage might end up as Prime Minister? Yes, absolutely. Steve, I think it's absolutely extraordinary that he's in the position he is. Why he's in this position for some of these forces that I'm talking about, trying to express. So it's the frustration of the inadequacies of the system.
Steve, do you accept that if you don't get this right, that if there isn't a demonstrable success in controlling these numbers within the next 18 months, the game will be up?
Well, I absolutely think we've got elected on a manifesto a little over a year ago now, and we need to deliver on the promises that we were elected on. That's an absolute.
You weren't elected. Let's be quite clear about it for a minute. 54% of the country voted, and what was it? 1/3, 34% of the 54% who voted Labour. So less than 20% of the country voted for Labour.
We have a parliamentary system.
That's the problem.
The next election will also be fought under the same
parliamentary system delivered a government with a significant majority when 20% of the country voted Labour.
If you look at the data around people who voted, people who voted Lib Dem or Reform or Green knew they were doing that and were going to get a Labour government. People didn't vote Green thinking they were going to get a Green government. They voted Green thinking it was going to give them a Labour government. So most people voted in a way that they believed would end up with a Labour government. This Labour government wants to be re-elected. We need to deliver on the promises that we were elected on. So the actions that we're taking now, including making sure that international treaties like the European Convention are applied in ways that are in tune with the realities of the modern world, are applied appropriately.
But why do you have to have a consultation on this? As Andrew said, why can't you just do it, show a bit of leadership?
Because it's, Bob, people said that, when we were looking at the water reforms that I was responsible for. I want to get them right. So I want to make sure that we're engaging with people that might have a view and something to say on it, so that we can make sure that when we bring it in, we've done.
All you're going to have is six.
It's much better. It's much better, Ian, to just wait a few weeks and get it right than to.
Well, is it only going to be a few weeks? Because what you're going to have are all of these human rights lawyers explaining to you why you shouldn't be doing it.
Well, we will move ahead. The Home Secretary is very clear what she intends to do. The way that she's going to do it, she'll listen to views that are coming in, and we'll get it right rather than rush ahead and get it wrong. But the action that we're taking is already starting to see people being removed. We've removed 35,000 people already who had no right to be in the country. That's something like a 12% increase in the levels that we were seeing being removed under the previous government. We've got the removals scheme with France that is about to go live. It will start out as a pilot because we want to learn how it works, but that will act as a deterrent to people coming across the channel. The Prime Minister said today the number of hotels has halved from its peak under the Conservatives. We want to end the use of hotels so we can use taxpayers' money on the things that taxpayers would prioritise. We're taking the steps towards that end.
We have got a lot of questions coming in, so we'll ask for shorter answers for the next couple of questions. I'm not looking at anyone in particular. It's 17 minutes past 8.
This is LBC. Cross Question with Iain Dale. Watch live on both Global Player and the new LBC app.
19 minutes past 8. Cabinet Minister Steve Reid is here. Andrew Griffith from the Conservative front bench. He's Shadow Business Secretary. Alison Phillips, journalist and former editor of the Daily Mirror, and advertising guru Sir Martin Sorrell. Now, you're going to like this next question, Martin. It's from Anthony in Ashford. Anthony, go ahead. Hi.
Evening, Ian and panel. Yes, thinking about all those famous campaigns and straplines of past, how would the panel relaunch Sir Keir's relaunch today, as it were? How would you, this flagging brand of Labour, of this last year. How would you create a campaign to kind of refloat it?
There's your challenge, Martin.
Wow, that's a huge challenge. I don't think he managed to refloat it so far today. And I think I'd wait, if I was Keir, until October.
Why?
Well, because the budget, when it comes, will be another big downer. So, I mean, there's a very little wiggle room that the government has. We have a cabinet minister here, so he would know. Very little financial flexibility. So I would see that there are going to be some big issues for the government after October, because they're going to have to raise taxes or raise revenue in some way, shape.
But that's an opportunity as well, isn't it?
Well, yes, but I mean, if you let's say that we came up with the ideal slogan, a slogan like
Labour is working.
Isn't, yes, I would say Labour isn't working, but we came up with a big slogan and a big campaign, and we spent a little bit of money on it and repositioned. Then October comes along, and I think that's going to be the critical moment. And if I was Keir, I would wait until I got that out of the way, because I think that's going to be hopefully the bottoming out of it, and then you go for a relaunch with Labour is working, or whatever the right tagline is. But I think it's a very difficult position for
how when you're involved in sort of advertising and PR, and you're tasked by a political party.
You forgot to say that
coming up
involved in PR now.
No. Well, we'll come to Alison in a moment.
She has some interesting clients.
How do you come up with these different slogans? Sort of.
You have great creative people.
But is it literally 10 people around a table brainstorming?
No. Well, look, my involvement was tangential. So I go back to this really dates me. Tim Bell, Gordon Rees, Charles Saatchi, Maurice Saatchi. The honest answer, we don't know. Jeremy Sinclair, where those were sort of Bill Muirhead. They were the 4 or 5 or 6 people that they were account people, creative people, strategic people. And it's a very interesting question in an era of work from home and work from anywhere, when some businesses are in the office, let's say 3 days a week or even less. Big question is whether the human creative input and output is as good as it used to be. I think it states me, but I think it's getting less. So the answer is it's the friction, creative friction between people that creates it. Big controversy in our
bit like newspaper headline writers, Alison. Exactly. So what's your answer to Anthony's question?
I think if I was doing a rebrand at the moment, I think I would do something around Labour, we've got your back. Because I think all those things that Martin was saying earlier about the anxieties that sit behind all this, which is the impact of globalisation, people really concerned about AI and what's going to mean for their jobs, the idea of their children being able to afford a home, all these things that are contributing to this sense of anxiety. What they want to see from this government is, and really, in some ways, people aren't bothered about where the money comes from. They just want the government to fix it. And they want that sense that we have a government that is there and is supporting them through all these really, really quite anxiety-inducing issues that people are facing at the moment. And immigration obviously being a chief one of those.
They want a way forward.
They want a way forward, but they want to feel secure. Security. I mean, that has been a big plank of this government, security. Yep. But I think what's needed now, although that kind of intellectual sort of level has been there, people haven't been feeling it, and they've got to feel that is now there.
So we've got your back. That's the theme. Steve?
Well, it was only July of last year that people voted for this government.
Yeah, but you've had about 4 relaunches
on the basis of change. We live in an age of insecurity. I think you picked the right word there. People feel insecure about their borders, about their income. In my area, the water was full of sewage. People wanted change. People voted for change, and I don't think we should move on from delivering the change that people voted for. So Keir was quite clear today. We've had our first year. That was about fixing the foundations. Now we want to move on to be much more clear about delivery, and I think that means people feeling the change that's starting to come through.
Do you think people feel the change?
I don't think
Not
they feel
yet.
it yet. No, but we have. You can look at the numbers: 4 million more NHS appointments than there were before. 4 interest rate cuts, which has cut people's mortgages. Just today, they'll do 30 hours free childcare. That's going to save families with young children £7,000 a year, but they don't feel it yet. It hasn't fed through yet. So we've got to keep going. We were elected to bring change. We are delivering that change. People don't feel it yet, but you don't just give up. We're making it real. We want people to feel it in their lives. So I think that is what we should be focused on.
On BBC Radio this morning, there was a woman who was pregnant and was going to give birth, couldn't find a nursery school, I think up north, a nursery school place for her kid when that kid would be born in 9 months' time or whatever it was. And I think what people feel is the resources we have available don't match the promise. So that slogan of change.
Although,
people wanted change for the better,
that's
not change for the worse. And on so many aspects, we've had change for the worse. It's worse if you're a farmer, thanks to Steve's party. It's worse if you're trying to run a...
Hang on, Alison, let Andrew have a go.
It's worse if you're trying to run a nursery because of Steve's government's
We put $8 billion into nurseries.
No, these are just made-up figures.
No, they're not. That's in the budget.
A national you talk to any nursery, come to my constituency and talk to a nursery. Talk to them about the change in the national insurance threshold that is absolutely clobbering their ability.
Andrew,
to
with
get
respect,
staff.
I want you to answer the question.
The question,
and sort of take your Conservative hat off. If you
sure.
were, if you were advising the Labour Party,
I'm not a fan of this. I'm not a fan of this Prime Minister. Look, if he was a brand, it would be that terrible BA tailfin. Right, you remember it was all mishy-moshy. You stepped away from the national pride in our carrier. You started putting all sorts of nonsense on the BA tailfin. And look, I mean,
but he's got an English flag in his living room.
He hasn't got. Look, I'm delighted Steve survived the reshuffle. Look, the Prime Minister doesn't have a plan, right? He doesn't have a plan. There was 8 different reshuffles. They don't really have a grand projet. When it comes to one of the
that we've had this one Prime Minister in office.
I'm being ecumenical. I'm stepping away from that.
Not terribly ecumenical.
When you think about the challenges that we've got, one of the biggest challenges is the 9 million people of working age out of work, an economy that is not growing, a society that's heavily indebted. Even the most timorous attempt to reform the welfare system, timorous, really not even moving the dial, the Labour Party couldn't contemplate getting that through. And if that's the sort of... And we all have to do things that you don't want to do in government, and that's leadership. It's the difference between being in government and actually having a mission and trying to lead the country somewhere. And on welfare reform, after merely 1 year with a record majority,
you had 14.
They've squandered that opportunity.
Why isn't the economy growing? Well, we all remember Liz Truss's kamikaze budget. You were a treasurer
hang on, that was 3 years ago.
You backed the kamikaze budget. That crashed the economy. It crashed the pounds. It sent people's mortgages shooting sky high. Sent prices in the shop sky high. You were one of the Treasury ministers that did it. You can reasonably sit here and blame me for your errors.
So many parts of Steve's economically literate rant are genuinely worrying for somebody who is a minister of the Crown.
Do you not
the
worry?
reality is...
Whereas you knew it all well, didn't you, Andrew, with the kamikaze budget?
Steve.
It's fantastic, that.
What's the 30-year gilt trading at today?
Yeah, I'm not going to be blustered around by you throwing terms like that at me.
Most important.
You crashed the economy personally.
Hang on. It's the most
Treasury minister.
The most important number that everybody.
Then why did you get it wrong?
That everybody in Whitehall should be focused on.
So why did you get it wrong?
And it is higher today.
Why did you back Kwasi Kwarteng's budget and get it wrong? Because people listening to this, his mortgages shot up because of your decision, and you're trying to blame us on what you did.
Steve, it's higher today than it was at the time. It's higher today than any time in 30 years. That includes all the trials with the Bank of England, LDI, all of the mini-budget, all of that. And that is the number that's going to define the success of this country and this government. And you don't even know what it is. You don't even know
that they've had since this government came in and the sky-high interest rates that you engineered through your disaster as a Treasury Minister.
Why is that borrowing number, the amount that the government pays to finance our country, why is that number higher today than Steve?
Why did you get the economy so badly wrong?
We can't go through the rest of the programme with you two asking each other questions.
Nice about nurseries.
Oh, if you must.
I have 2 nieces that have both had children in the last year, and they are able to go back to work and to make a difference. And this is, to normal people, this thing on nursery provision is making a huge difference. And I think it is so easy to keep picking at this is bad and that's terrible, that we have to highlight the things that are good in ordinary people's lives as well.
Yeah, but I think this is a serious issue, if we look at our clients generally and how they see the UK vis-a-vis the rest of the world, it's not good news.
In what way?
Well, if you look around the world, I spent a couple of weeks in Asia and last couple of weeks in India, in Korea, and in Singapore. And I look at Singapore. I mean, it's a high-cost economy, and it's a big issue, the cost of living in Singapore. But everything works, and the infrastructure is strong. And I was a Remainer, but we came out of the common market, out of the EU, and we had a shot, according to the Brexiteers, to get it right. Singapore on Thames, Singapore on steroids, whatever. And we've got it terribly, terribly wrong. And if I look at our clients, whether they be tech clients, whether they be automobile companies, whether they be packaged goods companies, if you laid out their priorities would be North America, South America, the Middle East, and Asia, beyond Europe.
But in the fintech sector, in the AI sector, we're world leaders.
No, we're not leaders.
Well, we are.
No.
We have the second.
You know what the saying is?
We have the second biggest AI sector in any
the
country in the world.
Innovate, the Chinese imitate, and the Europeans and the UK regulate.
Well, that may be true, but
it's not maybe true.
It is a fact.
True.
It is a fact that Britain has the second biggest AI sector in the economy in the whole world. We have an AI sector that is bigger than the rest of Europe put together.
Most of the companies end up being absorbed by, the unicorns, which is what we're referring to, end up being absorbed by America. We don't have it. You remember when Rishi...
You can say we don't as much as you like, but I know the figures, and we do.
Bletchley Park, was it?
Yeah.
Ran that conference. What was the theme of the conference? It was regulation. It wasn't about innovation. I'm sorry.
Well, I agree.
I don't buy that
I totally agree that we over-regulate in this country, but I think we need to do a bit more of what Alison just did and actually talk up our own country sometimes, rather than just run it down, which we are world professionals at.
We're not professional running it. Why is it that companies are not prepared to invest? Why is it the productivity in this country has not improved over the last
We still have more investment into this country than any other European country.
No.
But regardless of what you say about Brexit.
That's not relatively to where it's being invested elsewhere. I said to you...
that may be, but we're still better than France, we're better than Germany, we're better than Italy, we're better than Spain. Why don't we sing about that? Come on, Steve, back me up for God's sake.
Best of a poor bunch.
We had that session at the Guildhall, didn't we, last year, where we had global investors coming on. They want to invest in the UK. Just the sector that one of the sectors I'm responsible for is the water sector. We secured at the end of last year £104 billion to be invested over 5 years. It started in April of this year. That's the single biggest investment in our country's history just into the water sector. Now, that's great because it means we can start fixing those broken sewage pipes that are leaking sewage into our rivers. But it also means good, well-paid jobs in every single region of this country, putting money back in people's pockets. That means better lives for them, more wages for them, but it means more money into the exchequer so that we can refund those broken public services.
What is GDP growth running at the moment?
Well, it's better than it was forecast to be.
What is it running at?
But we picked up an economy that had flatlined for a decade.
But we've started to put
in place the measures
as it is in the rest
pay
of
rise that they want, and that will bring in the investment from overseas that we need to get.
Why are people leaving our country in record numbers?
People are not leaving.
Well, I don't know they are. You need to look at those statistics. I think they were slightly...
Right, okay. I'm being told off because we're 3.5 minutes late for the news. So let's rectify that, shall we? Because it is 8:33. News headlines with Darragh Jackson.
The Home Secretary is temporarily suspending new applications from asylum seekers looking to bring their families to the UK. Yvette Cooper has been revealing the government's latest plans to tighten rules to deter small boat crossings. A 13-year-old boy has been arrested after a 12-year-old boy died after falling from a roundabout in a playground. Cheshire Police believe Logan Carter died after the wheels of an e-bike were used to propel the roundabout in the park in Winsford on Friday. And the Met Office has confirmed that this summer was the UK's warmest on record. The mean average temperature was more than 16 degrees Celsius. LBC weather, showers becoming confined to northern and western areas as well as southern coasts tonight. Mostly dry with clear spells elsewhere, but heavy rain in the southwest by dawn. Lows of 10 degrees.
This is LBC. choices. Leading Britain's conversation. Cross Question with Iain Dale. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
8:36 on LBC. Somebody's texted here, I wish we had people like Martin Sorrell in charge.
My brother.
Yeah, I thought it might be. Right, let's go to another question. We have Martin Sorrell with us, Alison Phillips, Andrew Griffith and Steve Reed. Scott is in West Hampstead who asks this. Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson has told parents that they must ensure that their children attend school regularly. What strategies should local education authorities, head teachers and teachers employ to ensure that pupils do attend school regularly? Alison, you said you've got nieces.
Yeah, and I have children as well that have to attend school. The numbers are getting better, aren't they? I mean, it was after COVID, there was a real problem with getting kids back to school. A lot of them got out of the habit. We've known there's been a huge mental health crisis in this country. So I think rules are really important for young people. I think they have to stick to those rules. But I also think there is an issue around mental health and young people. I think the government could have done more around mobile phones in schools. Anything can make schools feel secure and places they want to be and they want to learn has got to be a good thing.
Martin.
I'm sorry, it's back to the office. Part of those stats show that Friday is a particularly bad day because a lot of parents are out of the office, and Mondays as well. So I think it's not about kids at school. In part it is, and the impact of COVID, but the majority of the issue is around in the office, days in the office. You know, we as a company.
So you think if kids see parents at home, absolutely. They think, well, if you're at home, why can't I be?
It's practical as well. You know, you're at home 3-day weekends, 4-day weekends. So I think the question is, it comes back to what we were talking about. You asked me about where does the creative spark come from? It comes from people engaging with one another. We're not all coders who can sit at home doing coding and talking to a screen. We have to talk to and interact to people, whether it's a business like ours or Alison's, or partly with Alison's doing at the moment, or elsewhere. So I think the heart of the problem is the changes that took place. They were accelerated by COVID, not caused by COVID. That just accelerated progress. We as a business have just under 7,000 people, and I would say it varies from region to region, but basically it's 3 days a week. And I'm not happy about that. I've gone through a change on it. All the academic analysis that I've seen interestingly points to working from home, distance working, distributed working, all the stuff I see from Harvard Business School, for example, suggests all the academic research shows, according to the professors and associate professors, that it works. I don't think it does. I think we lose a lot by that interaction. And the kids see that, and it's a reflection of that.
Steve.
Yeah, well, strangely enough, back in the day, I used to run a local education authority because I was a council leader, and we did a lot of work on this. And one of the things that I can still remember, and it'd be the case now too, not all schools have the same level of problem with this. And that's because different schools take different approaches. And the ones that were cracking it were those schools where they really engaged closely with the parents, with the children, to understand what was happening in each individual household that was causing a particular child to arrive late or not come to school at all on some days. And sometimes it would be something relatively simple. I remember a head teacher once telling me there was a family, they didn't have alarm clocks, so they weren't waking up in time to get the kid ready. In other cases, there would be much more serious things happening in the home. You know, there would be problems between the parents, or the relationship between the parents and the children. It needed something a bit more profound in terms of an intervention. But it was those schools that really developed that close understanding and relationship with the parents that were getting it right. And I think we can learn from the example of the best and then share that out to the other schools.
Andrew?
Yeah, in the interest of time, 2 words: inspirational heads. I mean, I bet they don't have a challenge with school attendance in Michaela. Put Catherine Burblesing in charge of it.
Not all schools can be like. I mean, it is
a very
absolutely very successful school,
diverse.
But it does seem to be the only school that people point to as sort of having a brilliant track record.
In every other domain of life, that's exactly how human civilization advances. Right? You build a successful adaptation, you get copied, you get emulated. I mean, we're so in the public sector, we're so loath to actually call out a beacon, a success. It's why our public sector is nothing like as productive as it should be.
Right. Text question from Kieran in Earl's Court. Is the row surrounding Angela Rayner's tax affairs an empty attack on a working class woman who's done well for herself, or rightly calling out rank hypocrisy? This has been a story that's been going now for a couple of weeks about Angela Rayner's supposed 3 homes, one of which she doesn't own. It goes with the job of Deputy Prime Minister, which you'd have to be pretty odd to begrudge her that. Steve, do you want to kick us off on this?
Yeah, this is absolutely a got-up story, and I'm afraid Andrew's party has played a big role in whipping it up. There's no question of Angela Bray having broken any rules or any laws whatsoever in what she's doing here. She, like many people today, has a complex family arrangement. She's separated from her husband. They needed to make appropriate arrangements for the children. And I don't think it's right to dig more deeply into their personal arrangements than that. No rules have been broken. She's done nothing. I think there is quite a lot of the attacks that come against Angela Rayner because she is an articulate working class woman, and some people don't like to see that.
It is a little odd, though, that she's classed this flat in Brighton as her main home when her constituency is in the northwest and she lives in London during the week.
Well, I say that without.
She hasn't broken a rule. You're right.
I don't. There's no rules broken, but I don't want to go into the detail of her family life. There are children involved here. She's had to make appropriate arrangements. She's done what is best for her family. No rules have been broken. She's complied with everything. No laws have been broken. This is just yet another attack, and we see many against Angela because she is a working class woman who's done very, very well and represents her community, her constituency incredibly powerfully.
Andrew.
Steve's read very well his lines given out by Central Office.
No, to be fair, I'll tell you what, Andrew, before you get all cynical and partisan, Angela's a close family friend of mine, and what I just said is absolutely what I know from knowing Angela.
Before I've said a single word.
But you're doing what politicians, many politicians do.
I've not said a single word, Steve. You keep interrupting me. I've literally not said a single word. I've not even got the words Angela Rayner out. To me, what this just shows us is just how complicated a tax code is. Right, we've got inheritance tax over here, we've got people saying there should be second home taxes over here, council tax. It's all just far, far too complicated. I don't know what Angela Rayner's done. I don't know what many people do. But what I do know is that we've created a tax system that has all sorts of perverse incentives. And the only thing I can say in terms of politicians is just transparency, right? This happens in corporate life as well, right? When it's all too complex and you can't explain it and you start citing court orders, you just have to make a clean breast of it. I'm sure she's done nothing wrong, so just come forward and just say it. Everything comes out anyway eventually.
You say the tax code and all tax affairs are far too complicated. You were a Treasury Minister for several years. You could have done something about that.
Listen, I never had that power. I was the City Minister, so I didn't even have the power over tax. And yes, I'm on the record. I would love to see the tax code simplified, even apart from the level of tax. It's just so complex and it's very distortive to the economy.
All right, Martin?
It's tax avoidance. I don't think she did anything illegal from what I can see in here. She's not commenting anymore on it because it's in the courts. But it's tax avoidance, not tax evasion. But those who live by the sword die by the sword. And the Labour Party have on many occasions criticised people. That famous court that judge's judgment that you have the right to arrange your affairs in the way to minimise tax. That's what she did in this particular case, and she's fallen foul of doing that when the Labour Party have historically criticised people for arranging their affairs in that way. So it's not illegal.
As I understand it, I don't think it's even tax avoidance. She was living in her constituency.
No, she's minimised the amount of stamp duty that she was liable for.
But she was living there. Her marriage is broken down. She's no longer living in that home, and she's bought a house down in Hove. But I think it's quite straightforward.
Primary residence there.
But that's because that's where
her crime is actually to probably do what a lot of MPs did in the expenses scandal, where they took advice and they were told this is perfectly legal and this is what you should do. And I don't think anyone...
minimise exposure.
Yeah, as any normal person would. That's her only crime.
But I mean, she has broken no rules, and this is not the first time we've seen them come for Angela Rayner, and it won't be the last, because she is a very successful woman. She says it as she sees it, and a lot of people feel very threatened by her.
This idea of she's being attacked, though, because she's a working class woman, I'm not sure I buy that totally.
Did you see the photographs they used of her to illustrate it? With a vape, sort of very pale.
Yeah, but it backfired. I think most people wouldn't have taken that as a bad picture.
I think there's definitely... Well, I think a lot of people, but the people that were using that picture were hoping that it was a weapon.
Maybe they did. But, I mean, to me, she is one of the few cabinet ministers, and I would include you among this category too, who actually know how to get things done in their department. I may not agree with what she's doing a lot of the time, but she knows how to pull the levers of power. And you will know from your own experience, you've only been doing the job for 12 months, but sometimes ministers want to pull a lever, and you will have seen this, I'm sure, in the Treasury, and nothing happens. And to me, she seems to be somebody who can actually make something
She's
happen.
really I mean, I was, when she was a shadow Secretary of State, I was a junior shadow minister in her team. She was the most effective shadow Secretary of State that I worked for, because she's very, very good at empowering and supporting her team.
Instantly now looks up who else she worked for.
Hey?
Right, we've got lots more questions to go, and of course our fun question at the end. It's 8:47 on LBC.
LBC. Cross Question with Iain Dale on LBC.
8:49 on LBC. Kai in March in Cambridgeshire has a question. Hello, Kai.
Tomorrow, MPs will debate electoral reform. Do you support getting rid of first past the post and replacing it with a form of proportional representation in mayoral and Westminster elections?
Andrew Griffith.
No. I'm not a career politician. I came to it pretty late in life. And the thing that is the best about the role is that individual accountability to the electorate. So no electoral system is perfect. And mathematically, they all have sorts of weird results like the supermajority that we've got now. But I really like that constituency link. I like the fact people know who their voice is in Parliament, and the fact that we'll all trog around on a Thursday or Friday or during recess, and we're very accessible to the people that we represent.
Alison?
I've changed my view on this, and I do actually think we should try moving towards some kind of proportional representation for all those reasons that we've got a public that is feeling very alienated from politics, is feeling very distrusting. And I think anything we can do to make people feel that their vote is more meaningful has got to be a good thing.
Martin?
No, we shouldn't move to proportion. What we should do is force people to vote. They can destroy their votes, but get them out. No, come on in. We fought so hard
Madness.
to get the vote.
Madness.
No, not madness.
You should have the freedom not to vote.
54%. It was 58% of the electorate turned out last time. In America, it's just 2/3. People should come out.
They should.
Vote.
But why? I mean, why would you make them? Why would you make it an offence? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Why is it ridiculous?
Well, because we're made to do so many things in our
the
society. Surely we should have a choice as to whether we
right
vote.
That we fought for
It's a right, yes,
for
but it's
women
a,
as
it's
well
a
as
right
men.
not to vote as well.
No, I don't buy that. You vote. You can destroy.
Okay, but that wasn't the question.
You can spoil. But I'm saying not to proportional representation. Keep it as it is, and make sure that everybody votes.
Okay.
Because this lot got in with 34% of 58% voting. It's less
Steve?
than 20%.
I'm going to be ecumenical for once now on this show and agree with Andrew. I think the constituency link is a very important part of our system. I'll be out on my constituency in South London knocking on doors on Saturday, and people will tell me directly to my face what they think. In a lot of PR systems, you don't get that. And I think in any democratic system, you've got to create coalitions that bring together people of differing views to come to a consensus about what they want the government to do. In PR systems, you do that after people have voted behind closed doors. In our system, you do it before people have voted, so they know what they're voting for when they go to the ballot box.
I thought, by the way, we were going to get whether 16-year-olds should vote or not.
No, we don't want to do that. That's already been decided. But if anybody wants to ask that tomorrow or Wednesday, feel free. Right. Excuse me. Emma in Birmingham says, David Lammy insists recognising Palestine wouldn't be a reward to Hamas for October the 7th. Do you agree? Steve?
No, of course it's not a reward for Hamas.
Would this be happening if October the 7th hadn't happened?
Yeah, but all of us have seen what's going on in Gaza. Everybody is going to be repulsed by the scenes that we are seeing going on there in Gaza. If we want that to stop, if we want that kind of situation, and we've, maybe not on this scale, but we've seen conflagrations around Israel, Palestine happening again and again over our lifetimes and before that as well. We have to get to a position where there is a lasting peace. The only way that I can see forwards for a lasting peace is a two-state solution with a secure Palestine living alongside a secure Israel. Now, the current Israeli government is taking actions that make that much less likely to happen. What they're doing with the settlements in the West Bank around Jerusalem would draw a line that would separate the integrity of a future Palestinian state. And it's not just the UK government that feels this. Our allies in France, in Australia, in Canada.
Yes, but at least they've had the balls to actually say, we will recognise a Palestinian state. What your government has done is to say, well, we'll recognise it if the Israelis don't have a ceasefire. I mean, you either believe in something or you don't. You don't have it contingent
there's two
on
stages
something
to this.
else.
One, we want the Israeli government to stop behaving in the way that they are in Gaza. I fully recognise Israel has the right to self-defence. Part of what we're calling for is that Hamas must release the hostages that they took in that horrific
that wasn't
act
mentioned when David Lammy and Keir Starmer announced this.
Act. I've just mentioned it. I've just mentioned it now. But part of that would be that the Israeli government will work towards a long-term peace solution. That means a two-state solution. So it's not contingent in the long term because it's only by securing a free and independent Palestine alongside a free and independent Israel that we can guarantee the security of both populations. And that surely is what we should be working towards.
Andrew?
Two things, because we're short for time. One is the people I feel not most sorry for, but you never hear their voice properly, are the innocent civilians in Palestine, not Hamas. So they are victims, they're captors of Hamas as much as anything else. And the issue I have with what the UK government's done is it's just done it unilaterally. It's not sought anything in return. It leaves Hamas unreformed in charge of Palestine, with the innocent Palestinian people still at their mercy.
Well, Hamas isn't in charge of Palestine, is it? It's only been in charge of Gaza. It's never been in charge of the West Bank.
Yeah. No, but it's still calling the shots. And what we don't have is a proper, well-supported civilian authority, which is the only way you're ever going to get peace.
You have two sides here, neither of whom seem to want a two-state solution. Alison?
I mean, that is the problem. So I don't think it's a reward for Hamas, and I think we have to do it to protect what may remain of Gaza when this comes to an end, if there is anything less. But it is only one step towards the support that is going to be necessary in the aftermath, if we ever get to the point of an aftermath.
Martin?
It is a reward. I think there are 40 hostages still. 20 probably.
49, I think.
49, is it? Half dead, half alive. First thing, return the hostages. Then we see what happens.
But should that? I mean, I've I might be criticising for saying there should be they can make a contingent on a ceasefire.
From my point of view, is non-negotiable. That October the 7th. Yeah, has anybody on this panel seen the film, the IDF film? Yeah. Okay, just take a look.
But the problem is that, I mean, Hamas, as I said to Andrew, they're not in charge of the West Bank.
By the way, the IDF film should be compulsory viewing.
You want to make a lot compulsory, don't you?
No, yeah. Well, you'd have the choice to destroy your ballot, and you could sit there and ignore what you see, but they should be shown.
Well, I haven't seen this film, but I'm not sure I believe in compulsory film watching.
Well, I think it should be made available to people. I think the Israelis have started to make it more available.
But
have you seen it? Have you seen it?
No, I haven't, no.
Okay.
But
you see it before you judge, see it.
The basic problem here is that the Israelis do not want to, or the Israeli government, I should say, does not want a two-state solution. Hamas certainly don't want a two-state solution. Now, the Palestinian Authority seems to be a complete irrelevance in all of this, which is bizarre to say the least. And you now have Donald Trump not even allowing the representatives of the Palestinian Authority to attend the UN General Assembly, which is maybe a question for another time. Right, let's go to our fun question from Alfie in Doncaster. With the internet having been awash with conspiracy theories over the weekend about Donald Trump's health because he hadn't been seen for a couple of days, where would you take the US president to if he could sneak away for the weekend again? Alison.
Could he go up in one of Elon Musk's space rockets, perhaps, and just stay there for maybe slightly longer than the weekend? Maybe by about 4 years? Yeah.
Martin?
I'd take him to Tianjin, with Kim, with Putin, and with Xi and Erdogan.
He'd love that.
I'd like to see him play with them in Tianjin.
What? Sorry,
Tianjin is where they got the Shanghai conference.
Oh, right.
So I see. Strong men are all there.
I see what you mean. He'd probably feel quite at home there, wouldn't he?
Yes, global South.
Andrew?
I'm not sure this would be wildly popular, but obviously everybody should go away for a weekend in Arundel. We've got it all. We've got castles, we've got wetlands.
Oh, he'd like the castle.
We've got the South Downs, we've got a lot of history because the whole of West Sussex was where the D-Day forces, Canadians, Americans, Brits, Commonwealth, all marshalled for many weeks in the run-up to D-Day. So there's a lot of history and shared history as well.
If it weren't for Arundel, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair now. Oh. Because I started on radio on a station called Play Talk in Arundel, and that's the only reason I got an audition at LBC.
I'd love to say the residents of Arundel tell me about nothing other than Play Talk and Iain Dale's debut.
Yeah, I can vouch what he's saying about Arundel or South Downs. It's a beautiful part of the country. I would take him to...
Not as beautiful as South Croydon.
Not as beautiful as Streatham and Croydon North, thank you. Sorry. And that's where I'm going to take him. I'm going to take him to the Conquering Hero pub, bang in the middle of my constituency so he can hear some of the folk wisdom of the good people that live there and happily will instruct me whenever I, on those rare occasions, enter the doors of that pub.
Marvellous. Thank you all very much for appearing on this very spirited first edition of Cross Question in our new run. On tomorrow's panel, we have the Tory peer and former Deputy Prime Minister Baroness Therese Coffey, the Labour MP and Chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee, Dame Emily Thornberry, the SNP's leader in Westminster, Stephen Flynn, and the Financial Times political editor, George Parker. Well, coming up in the next hour, Douglas Carswell, the former UKIP MP, issued one of the most disgraceful tweets I think I've ever seen. And believe me, there's some competition for that accolade today. I'm not even sure I want to repeat it, but it was overtly racist. And I called him out on it. And I said, this is racist. You're an absolute disgrace.